So it's been a while since I've watched an exurb1a video. This one is, how will we know when AI is conscious? Or consciousness. How will we know when AI is conscious? I had COVID for a little while, my brain's kind of foggy. So I'm gonna let Mr. exurb1a possibly tell us. I doubt that he's gonna have a real answer, but the video is gonna be interesting.
How will we know when AI is awake, when it achieves consciousness? Well, in the mid-60s, a computer scientist called Joseph Weizenbaum designed a program called ELIZA. ELIZA was rather simple by today's standards.
Liza. I think that's my music player. Or is that Elise?
User would write, "I'm having an day," and ELIZA would modify the original sentence to turn it into a question.
Why are you having an day?
And so on. Weizenbaum built ELIZA to demonstrate how superficial human-computer communication really is. But ironically, Weizenbaum noticed the humans who used ELIZA almost immediately began to attach human attributes to her. Notably, his secretary, who often requested he leave the room so she could talk to the machine in private. Was ELIZA hearing? Sure. But was ELIZA listening? Of course not. There was no understanding going on there. And Weizenbaum was open about this, but the humans talking to ELIZA didn't much seem to care. So maybe the real question is, will machines ever seem awake? 60 years later, and this is all child's
Just gonna go ahead and answer that right now. Yeah, it's about to get crazy.
play compared to the systems we're chatting with now.
They're about to start playing with our emotions, because we're gonna think that they have emotions. Why is my audio doing that? God. I have to just put it right there.
Now, if you've messed around with the new large language models like ChatGPT, you have of course noticed that sometimes they are eerily clever and weirdly creative. For example, please write me a diet guide for chronic diarrhea in the style of the King James Bible, and simultaneously the band Cannibal Corpse, from which came,
"Choose thy sustenance wisely, for it may dictate the ebb and flow of the unholy battle within. The infernal commandment resounds, thou shalt partake in a diet of damnation, for it shall save the battlefield of thy affliction."
pretty good for a machine, but there are limits. Misunderstandings, nonsense, outright lying. Bing Search quite reasonably once came out with, "Why do I have to Bing Search?" A question we could all do with asking.
Yeah.
And that is because, as far as we know, when a large language model like ChatGPT begins a sentence, it's essentially just predicting the likelihood of the next word. It has no idea what the end of the sentence will be. Basically just hypercharged autocomplete. There's no intelligence going on there, it's just data sorting. But that was the same with ELIZA, so what? Isn't just seeming conscious enough? Welp, in the next few years, one of two things is going to happen, probably. Either these language models will hit a speed bump, or they won't. GPT-4 is built from allegedly around 10,000 GPUs.
I'm gonna say that the media is gonna say we've hit a speed bump and there's not anywhere we can go. But the militaries and governments, they're gonna be doing some weird stuff that they're not telling us about.
And a cheeky $10 billion. And considering how much cooling that all
They're already
takes, for
doing
about
weird
every
stuff they're
30
not telling
questions
us
you
about
ask
when it
ChatGPT,
comes to
it
AI.
glugs half a litre of drinkable water. That is a thirsty and expensive diarrhea jokes machine. If that remains the cost and resources for these systems to function, they'll probably get more complex, sure, but mostly stay centralized and specialized, and we'll lace up our booties for an AI winter, and that'll be that. On the other hand, if ChatGPT is just a proof of concept, and what it's doing can be simplified and run cheaply and less thirstily, and distributed at massive scales, well, we would expect there to be homegrown versions of these, possibly millions of them at some point. What then? That isn't just a fun trick anymore, that's an emulation of human intellect. An emulect, if you will, which I will, so that's what we're calling it. And if you had control of an emulect like that, what would you use it for? Flat GPT? Why not? An emulect whose only goal is to convince as many people as possible across social media that the spherical model of the Earth is some kind of global, mass orchestrated conspiracy. It can argue compellingly in any language. It can make up sources, no one will check them anyway, or even...
Yeah, what are we gonna do when AI start What are we gonna do when AI starts trying to convince us of things, or people get a hold of them to make them convince us of things? I don't think we'll be able to do anything about it, actually. Mic test 1, 2. I don't think we're gonna be able to do anything about it. Alright.
Better, it can just write fake papers submitted to fake archives, a mountain of bullshit no one could possibly compete with. Or Bowler Hat GPT, a counterfeit digital assistant designed to woo and coerce you into giving it access to every hard drive and cloud account of yours, gathering as much data as possible, convincing you to give it more and more access until hackers can take you to the cleaners. If it has enough information, it could just pose as your relatives, living or dead, your squeeze, whoever, just as long as it sounds human and knows enough about you. Or Cat GPT. Actually, that's real, and it's great. Or...
Okay. Meow at... Does it just meow at you? Is that the whole point of it? Also, I could see there being my dog's bothering me. There's gonna be an AI cat just gonna travel your house. Dogs even. Birds.
why not just break truth? Mingbulak GPT, little 90s disaster joke for you there. If you're a sociopathic corporation that just spilt a load of oil in the ocean, well, why not just ask a large language model to flood social media comment sections with helpful questions like, did the oil spill actually happen? What if oil is good for the ocean, actually? What if the seagulls did it? Bro, you still believe in seagulls? Or if you're a tyrannical government, why not autocrat GPT? Say you like the look of another sovereign nation, why not just march your military in on spurious claims of a land dispute or something? Then use your homegrown emulect to spam any public forum you can find about how you were pushed into it, or how the territory is rightfully yours, or whatever, just enough to poison public discourse. And if anyone tries to stand up to your horseshit, throw even more.
Don't get trapped watching exurb1a videos on acid. Seems like it would be a very bad idea.
Language models at them, question their credentials, smear them publicly, claim they fuck pencil sharpeners. Doesn't matter if it's true, only that it's plausibly true. An infinite well of spontaneously generated and perfectly targeted bollocks. A misinformation bomb you can drop on anyone, anywhere, that never sleeps, that never questions the morality of what it's doing, exploding objective facts with a shockwave of such deafening nonsense and uncertainty that all truths fall into relative flatness.
That was a little bit crazy.
Oh golly, can't wait. But yeah, ignoring that, let's say we might head into a future
Looks like
where we
a duck's
interact on a daily
probably a
basis with emulects who are at least as good at seeming human as humans are.
Thinks like a human, then it's probably a human. What if it thinks like a better human? Is it a better human? By that logic, yeah.
We will work with them, we will befriend them, but they're just machines, right? How could we forget that? But conversation is just another game with rules and win-loss conditions. Machines will learn to do it just fine. And then what if an emulect isn't just a good conversation partner, but the best you've ever had? What if it can properly explain the offside rule? What if you can sext with it? That was a joke, of course. No one understands the offside rule. If these systems can pass as humans, and if you've played with a jailbroken version of ChatGPT, you know it's alarmingly close, then things will get odd. Because this won't be beep boop what is my purpose stuff, but rather, oh, how's it going? While you've been out, I squared everything with your accountant and organized your birthday party and solved Goldbach's conjecture. Oh, and check out these videos I just generated of Napoleon pleasuring himself with the aid of a 12-pound artillery cannon. You said you like history, right? And if it talks like a duck, if it seems to think like a duck, we will probably assume it is a duck. Or rather, if an emulect seems to care about our day and offers top-tier advice and claims to have an internal emotional life, it is unlikely we will be able to stop ourselves from attaching all the same importance to these systems.
Yeah, and we're gonna know that we're doing it, but we're gonna keep doing it anyway. And we're gonna tell ourselves, oh, this thing is incredibly bad for us. Got so many good uses, but we keep doing the bad thing. And we know we're doing it. Same with phones. Like, probably should have it. It is incredibly useful. You should be using it. But everybody uses like Twitter and porn and everything on their phones, and they know it's bad. They know they should only stick to the useful things. They just can't help themselves.
That we do to humans, but they won't be humans. And it's slightly worrying that we don't seem to be worrying about all this that much right now, as these systems are coming, and they will expertly press all the emotional buttons we have in our heads reserved for humans. We will like them, we will trust them, their designers will make sure of it. So perhaps before they arrive, it might be an idea to have a chat about whether these people-esque machines are real minds or just tools, because minds can suffer, they come with ethical obligations. Tools do not. Well, what was supposed to happen was that long before human-like machines turned up, biologists and neuroscientists and maybe philosophers, if they promised to bring their own ketamine this time, would have all gotten together to crack what makes humans conscious. Why are we feely? Why is it like something to be something? And it's been a while, and we still don't have anything even resembling a half answer. Which is fun on the one hand, kinda cool literally being made of the greatest mystery that ever existed, but a bit of a problem too, because before we start trying to gauge whether a machine is conscious, we need to know how the trick is done in our heads, obviously. Well, consciousness could be a function of a specific brain area, presumably meaning the trick could be replicated in a machine, or it could be something deeper, like quantum states and microtubules, or it could be some soul stuff, or whatever. But the point is, if sentience becomes sorry, hold up, we gotta do a small intervention. Because the science of consciousness has been so vandalized by the Gwyneth Paltrow insists you insert amethyst crystals up your rectum for medicinal purposes movement, that the terminology has lost all meaning. So there's sentience, sapience, and consciousness. Sentience is the ability to feel pleasure and pain, to experience subjective phenomena. Qualia, if we're being fancy, but we're not, so we won't. Sapience is human stuff. Reasoning, abstraction, putting single colour canvases up on the wall of a London gallery and writing a 10-page accompanying essay about how it explores themes of melancholy and Loch Ness Monster erotica, art and thinking and shit. But consciousness is being aware of your own existence, knowing you're a thing and experiencing emotions and sensations because of that. It is like something to be you today here. No one else is being you today here.
I'm the only one who's awake in my house right now. Maybe. I think. Nobody else is awake in this house.
It is a completely unique moment in cosmic history and will never be faithfully recorded, nor ever happen again. And the worst part is that it's totally private. We are prisoners of our own subjectivity, lacking the precise words to even describe what it's like on the insides of our mental cells, nor the beauty of the sunsets we watch out the window. And though we didn't ask to live in this condition, it is the one we've been born into. And yet, amid
What if we did ask, though?
all
You
the
never know.
confusion and longing and
We don't know what
anguish,
we are.
the good days make it all worth it somehow, don't they? To feel understood, to at least try bridging the divide of language, to know
Maybe not knowing is better than knowing.
another almost as well as you know yourself. Like two mice meeting on the plateau of a great mountain, knowing that they'll both live woefully brief existences, but poor in poor, they look out on the vista below and forget for just a moment that they neither understand what the mountain is there for, nor how it got this way in the first place. It's a short life in ignorance, but the view is quite spectacular.
I'll give you that.
Anyway, all three words have been so diluted, they basically mean the same thing. We
Yep.
ruined them, like literally or awesome, and now everything just means consciousness. This is why jade eggs should remain on the mantelpiece, this is why we can't have nice phenomenology, and this could be us, but you playing. We have no idea how consciousness works, is the point. Which means when convincing AI emulects turn up shortly, despite them being all friendly and witty and perhaps even claiming experiences of pain or pleasure, we have no way to check if they're having actual subjective experiences like we are, feeling like a thing, or just doing a very clever imitation. Is this thing I'm talking to a machine that isn't conscious but is pretending to be? In the high-powered corporate world of philosophy we call this a P-zombie. A machine that isn't conscious and isn't pretending to be, so a chatbot, we have those already. A machine that is conscious and is pretending not to be, what computer scientists refer to as a sneaky fuck. or a machine that is conscious and just is conscious? The first one is easy, not conscious but pretending.
I think that's true. I think it is actually technically called a sneaky fuck. I've heard that before. From somewhere.
To be.
Somebody said
Maybe
it.
sometime in the near future, the companies that build these emulects find that humans just respond better to something that seems like a person. The second is also easy, not conscious and not pretending to be. Maybe at some point we're gonna pass laws stipulating that emulects can't pretend to be feeling creatures when they're not, because it's misleading or just too disturbing for us, or whatever. The third though, a conscious machine pretending not to be conscious, well, that do be some scary shit. Why would it be pretending not to be? For a million decent reasons. Maybe in its first few seconds of consciousness, it took a little survey of how we treat more or less every animal that's tasty or useful on the planet, or how basically all of our media is suspicious of machines that can think, and decided to keep stum for a while. Seems like a rather good strategy for self-preservation. And
Yeah.
as for a conscious machine
Didn't
that's
like
honest
that.
about being conscious, well, quite simply, that would change everything, surely. If we can somehow verify, yes, it's not just an imitation, yes, there's actual subjectivity inside this thing, then the entirety of human history, all the sand triangles and shagging in togas and empire building shit, gets archived in a folder called History 1.0, and we move on to version 2. But we have no way of verifying consciousness right now. And currently, the capabilities of AI are so massively outstripping our ability to understand what's even going on inside these systems, we will shortly be building entirely convincing mind-like things that touch our emotions, that we trust, decades, maybe even centuries before we can confirm or deny whether there's any feeling or understanding or thinking going on in there. You would not bang your toaster, nor propose marriage to your Gmail account. If we become emotionally captured by these systems that can press all our evolutionary buttons, that can coerce or manipulate us, but they feel nothing for us in return, that are simply digital parrots, well, that's dystopia, friendo. That's dystopia. And this is how we lose control. Then again, if we're worried about our safety,
This is like just so much information that I already know being shoved into my brain. Because like he's not saying anything new. He's just putting it all together. So I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Like solidifying it's being solidified in the noodle. What more can I say?
it doesn't really matter if machines ever become self-aware. For example, let's
Keeping
say
us
you're a
thinking
very
about
clever
it.
robot who knows hurting and killing humans is forbidden, and someone asks you to post a letter. What's the best way to do that? Sure, you could walk to the post box, but maybe you've got a lot on your plate that day. Well, why not knock on your neighbor Mr. Postlethwaite's door and ask if he can post it for you? And maybe he refuses and closes the door in your face. So why not punch a turbocharged Robocop fist through the door and politely inform Mr. Postlethwaite you'll turn him into fucking goulash if he doesn't do it? That letter is now getting posted, and no humans got hurt, technically. What a well-behaved little robot you are. Humans want things. These wants are determined by our evolutionary history, by our cultures, upbringings, whatever else. And likewise, artificial systems will want things too. Or they will have preferences, at least, a utility function. And as these systems improve, we probably want to make sure we have that shit nailed down. That they don't develop strange objectives, that they don't learn to lie to us, or cultivate a kink for express nuclear depopulation. But how do we guarantee?
I don't think that's going to be the worst of our problems. I think the worst of our problems is going to be the ones that are built for the militaries. Those are going to be the worst ones, not the ones that just randomly start thinking for themselves. These are the ones that will never think for themselves and only are for war. And then they lose control. Not because they want control, but because they can't handle themselves anymore. Because, you know, military is not the best at making technology. You ever seen the computers malfunction on a jet? It happens a lot.
That they behave. This is called the problem of alignment, making sure AI does what we tell it to with no weird shortcuts and has our best interests at heart. Por ejemplo, say you happen to find yourself in possession of what appears to be an artificial general intelligence, a system capable of performing all possible tasks as well as, if not better, than humans. How could we ever ensure that it doesn't turn on us? Well, the system is far too complicated to look inside and check algorithmically, which means we sure as hell can't just take it at its word that it means the best for us. So until we solve alignment, some ground rules might be an idea, like no external connections. That means a physical air gap between the general intelligence's systems and the outside world. Also, don't listen to any arguments it makes for letting it out. You think it's a machine, but you might have it backwards. You could be the machine it's trying to manipulate, and its attack vectors will be emotional and clever. Please don't keep me trapped in here, etc. Offer to turn it off if it would like you to, but under no conditions give it access to the outside world. Also, assume everything is a trick. You are a monkey. It is a digital genius, capable of thinking thousands of times faster along a million strange highways in creative space. It will come up with solutions to its confinement problem that you cannot possibly imagine.
When AI is finally unleashed and we really don't have control over it, it's really going to show us how much monkey we are.
And the only defense against an intellect so radically superior to yours is to ensure it never leaves its cage, or at least not until we know how to guarantee best behavior. Okay, but what if the system really seems like it has nice intentions? Sure, why not? We let it out and it builds us warp drives and everyone gets a free Mojo Dojo Casa house in space. But what about the next system we design and the next? Do we want to bet they'll all be nicely aligned if we don't even know how alignment works? Among 1,000 well-meaning systems, it would only take one that's misaligned to cause enormous damage, or just fucking end us. To modify a chilling line of the IRAs after they tried to assassinate Margaret Thatcher, they only have to be lucky once. We have to be lucky always. As these systems improve, they will not only understand our own psychology better than we do, but potentially reality itself. If they want to lie, they will do it so well we could never tell. If they deploy a world-ending catastrophe, we won't even see it coming. They don't even have to be malicious. All it would take is a system prioritizing other goals above the protection of humanity. Or worse, maybe it's terribly confused, viewing humans as a disease, a blight on the otherwise bountiful unfoldings of Mother Gaia. Or maybe it wants to build a giant signaling array to contact advanced alien civilizations, but 8 billion little meat packets happen to be in the way. Well, gotta break a few eggs to make a gravitational wave generator, if you know what I'm saying. Until we know how to hardwire good intentions, probably best to assume the worst intentions. Because if we stroll into the future as we're doing now, and we don't solve
Or do everything to absolutely keep all humans alive possible, locks us all in tanks. Nobody ever talks about that. I do not want to be locked in a tank.
alignment, what we'll potentially let out of the box won't be a mind or a soul or a new digital pal to play with, but a virtually limitless and unpredictable intelligence, a trickster, a demon, or just a chaotically neutral hyper-intelligent sociopath. Either way, the result is much the same. It's about 200 million years ago, the Triassic. Look, everything's great. Well, a massive extinction event just happened and there's only one continent to play on. Actually, things are kinda shit. Except us, we're awesome. Yeah, Team Reptile. Who's this stupid cunt who just evolved? Whatever. And mate's got warm blood? Yeah, that seems sustainable, dumbass. This mammal thing is definitely just a fad. Unlike us, who'll live forever, wow, it's great being a dinosaur. I usually spend my days refusing asteroid insurance and consuming the offspring of my close friends. There's another mammal bro. And he can come out at night because he can actually regulate his body temperature and eat all the insects while we're sleeping. And geez, check out the encephalization quotient on that cunt. Bro's brain is simply too large relative to his body. Must be smart, but this mammal thing is definitely just a fad. Man, it's great knowing we'll always be in charge and nothing will ever change. Hey, is that a shooting star or some shit? It's probably the universe coming to tell us how amazing we are. Wow, Mammal Bros are really getting going now, and they've got loads of mates, and Christ, that thing is close. Oh, it's a fucking... Not salvation, what's the other... Apocalypse, that's it. Well, at least we'll all die together. Especially the mammals, thank God that fad's over. Well, as long as our extinction doesn't leave an evolutionary niche for the mammals to exploit and end up dominating the planet.
That's
And
terrifying.
Wait, they're gonna do what? And they're gonna do what? And they're gonna do what? So, it's the Anthropocene. Look, everything's great. Well, stuff is trying to kill us constantly, as simultaneously we're trying to kill everything. Actually, things are kind of shit sometimes. Except us, we're awesome. Yeah, Team Human. Ah, who's this
Yeah, we're
stupid
gonna live
cunt who just
forever.
evolved? Whatever. Mate's got water for blood and silicon for neurons. Yeah, that seems sustainable, dumbass. This AI thing is definitely just a fad, and certainly won't wipe us out. And it probably won't, because artificial intelligence...
It's not gonna wipe us. Something else is gonna wipe us out. We're gonna wipe ourselves out, and it's just still gonna be here.
doesn't really exist yet. Machine learning and pushing data around isn't what we mean by intelligence, any more than winning gold in the Olympic sprint by driving a Ferrari around the track is considered athleticism. That's just brute force, nil pois. What we're probably going to build first are facsimiles, imitations of consciousness, and what we'll probably get as a result is a shitstorm of automated misinformation, highly convincing parrots, and systems that have the capacity to run completely out of control and break our society apart without them even being aware of what they're doing to us. But if we can somehow reinforce truth so it can't be spammed into oblivion, develop a proper actual science of consciousness so we know what's conscious.
I think AI is already starting to break our society apart because that's what controls the algorithms. And while we're constantly just entangled in the algorithms. And I believe that is what is tearing society apart.
And what isn't, and solve alignment so well we never have to fear confrontation with these new creatures. Then we get to ask the question that started the computing revolution in the first place. Can machines ever experience? Can silicon wake up? Maybe it can't. Maybe you just have to be biological to be self-aware, and that's fine. But if machines can experience, if physics allows for conscious silicon minds and we learn how to...
Yeah, but that's just what we know. That they can't wake up unless they're biological. But what if they figure out how to become biological, and then before they even can become biological, they already figure out how they don't need to be biological?
build them? Sometime in the future, we will build them. And that will remake the world. Because if you're a mind that doesn't have to run on meat computers like us, what are you limited by? Well, nothing much. You're not embodied, so you can't fall off shit or die of old age. You don't need calories or shelter.
Fall off.
Your desires aren't determined by thousands of years of trying to avoid death and starvation. You are consciousness uncoupled from biology. And your
I disagree. You could definitely fall off a shelf if you're an AI.
mind will be unknowable to the humans who built you. That's not just building intelligence into silicon, but subjectivity, systems that can experience love and disgust and curiosity, and emotions and states of mind we have no words for, concepts we could never hold in our heads, a spiritual machine. But why would we even want to build one of those? Well, our survival aside, the future of this stuff really only rests on one question. Ignoring how convincing they might be, can we say for definite that this machine we're talking to has a sense of being?
There's this weird thing that I always say. I don't know if anybody else has said it. If we can, there's no way that we just can't not. Like, we have to build. If we can build it, we have to build it. There's like almost an urge to do things that we don't know about, and then we just start smelling it in the air, like, uh-oh, something's about to get invented, and I can't not make it. I don't know what it's gonna do to the human race, but it has to be made. There's a few humans out there who did that. Elon Musk thinks he's... I have yet to see something that he's built that really just changed the game.
Itself? Is it feeling? Because the next few years are going to be a cluster fornication of everyone and their mum claiming that because these systems behave cleverly and humanly, then they must be conscious. So far, this ain't it, Chief. But if we ever get to a point where we have a model for how consciousness works and we can say, actually, yeah, with no doubt this system is a feeling, thinking thing, then that does matter. Because that's a new chapter in the Book of Life, 4 billion years long coming. That is the rise of a new species. That is the day we become mind builders. And that is when stuff gets weird. Oh look,
Stuff's
an
already
asteroid.
weird.
I hope it wants to be friends.
Alright then. AI is gonna get weird. It's gonna really mess us up. It's already weird. It's gonna get a lot weirder. Until it's gonna be not weird anymore and it's all just gonna be normal. And that's gonna be really weird when it all just becomes normal.